Book Do people trying to fix it?
Big Book based AA is just as simple and effective as ever. Unfortunately, the fellowship often does not follow the plan in the book as closely as possible, thereby dropping in effectiveness, aka fellowship drift from Big Book. If unconvinced, please listen carefully to Joe and Charlie at the top of this website. AA Big Book Do is simply one way to help us follow the Big Book plan as closely as possible and therefore help AA reclaim its heritage of simplicity and effectiveness. What's wrong with asking someone to be your sponsor?
A sponsor is someone who has what the newcomer wants in terms of quality sobriety. The sponsor helps the newcomer to do what the sponsor did to also achieve quality sobriety. One person connecting another to higher power via the steps using the plan in the book is the very lifeblood of AA. Nowadays, unfortunately, this seems to be happening less frequently. An AA Big Book Do is simply an avenue to help more alcoholics participate in this lifeblood activity. If a sponsor and a newcomer hook up at an AA Big Book Do, that's wonderful.
Go.
How long should it take to work these steps?
One should work whatever step they are on as if their life depended on it, because their life depends on it. When it is time to move on, then one should dive into the next step the same way. Read some stories from the Pioneers of AA section of the Big Book, including Bill's and Dr. Bob's. It sounds like they did them all without delay. Nowadays, the fourth step, especially, has evolved into a bottomless pit. Joe and Charlie describe, from the AA Big Book, a process of a few hours of putting down on paper the main things that are eating you up, then rolling into step 5. We don't need to know what size underwear you wore in the 4th grade. What's eating you up? Put it down on paper, share it, then roll into step 6. We have the rest of our lives to pursue perfection about this plan for living. To stay stuck by expecting perfection the first time through, for many of us, is to die before we ever connect to the power that keeps us sober. What about people who are simply too new and or too sick to help others?
It's never too early to share what one has, as long as one shares from 2 places, and these 2 places only. Number 1, what it says in the AA Big Book or other AA literature. And number 2, what is my firsthand experience with regards to what it says in our book? No theories or opinions or predatory practices, etc. If it feels like a good idea to keep an eye on someone to make sure that they're staying in bounds, then go ahead. Once again, it's never too early to share, as long as everyone stays in bounds. Not all of AA's step work can be done around a table with multiple other alcoholics. What about that?
There certainly are parts that cannot, or maybe should not be done around a table at an AA Big Book Do gathering. Of course, the AA Big Book Do gathering can provide guidance, encouragement, and even help make arrangements for those outside parts to be done. This helps keep the step ball rolling and thus saves lives. We don't feel truly qualified to guide others through the steps.
Use Joe and Charlie as much as you want. They help people to truly get and do what is in the Big Book. You can even download a Joe and Charlie app to help you do this perfectly. Everyone, including you, will be making great progress when you do this. Plug a little speaker into the smartphone to help everyone hear it if you need to. Presto! Everyone is getting the best of the best of real Big Book AA. Pause the audio as often as necessary to make sure the group is understanding and doing. We already have a step meeting in our community. Why do we need an AA Big Book Do?
Step meetings are wonderful. Support them with all your might. Step meetings are like health class. There is lots of valuable information made available that one can use to improve and maybe even save lives. AA Big Book Do is more akin to an emergency medical procedure that we are applying right now to pull back a moribund individual from imminent death. No maybe about it. What about AA beyond the steps?
Believe it or not, AA really does go beyond the 12 steps. This truth is obscured by the fact that so many people never reach the milestone of having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. When an AA Big Book Do group really reaches full power, wouldn't it be cool to have a table devoted to traditions, history, service, and more? What about my need to get off my chest the things that are bugging me? The Big Book Do format does not allow me to get relief by getting those things out.
Of course, the Big Book Do format allows for getting those things out, just not during our Big Book Do meeting time. You still have the remaining 167 hours of the week to get it all out. Maybe we can even help you make arrangements to hook you up with a good listener. How can I get AA Big Book Do started in my community?
Give people at your home group a week or more to check out this website. Afterwards, bring it up for a group conscience. See if it flies. Recommend people to check out this website. The ones who are interested may want to start a new gathering with you. If there is strong support for AA Big Book Do in your community, maybe your community could have multiple AA Big Book Do gatherings per week. That way, a real gung-ho newcomer could more perfectly tap into dynamics of early AA. Wow! Ask higher power for guidance. Ask higher power to make you a more perfect instrument of higher power's peace. Use your common sense. Follow the traditions. Learn the Big Book better and better. An abundance of excellent guidance from all our AA literature is available. We're not reinventing the wheel here, people. We're simply reviving our connection to the wheel. There are still so many uncertainties about this.
The 3 words Big Book Do are absolutely simple. The realities of manifesting a Big Book Do gathering in the real world with real world alcoholics is an ongoing adventure for you and your friends. Expect and embrace the uncertainties that a real adventure has for everyone. Keep as your personal and group mantra, what does the newcomer really need? Ask your higher power, what does the newcomer really need? Ask your Big Book Do teammates, what does the newcomer really need? Ask the AA literature, what does the newcomer really need? Ask your experience, what does the newcomer really need? And ask your gut intuition, what does the newcomer really need? Do this, and you will stumble towards the light. Do you think the AA founders just got together and did it perfectly the first time? It was trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. In March of 2017, this website was launched because I wanted to give traction to starting a Big Book Do group in my community. Presently, there are a few suggestions from my experience because I'm embarking on the journey right now with you. Who started this whole AA Big Book Do thing anyway?
You did! You were so moved by what Joe and Charlie said about fellowship drift and fellowship return that you knew in your heart that you had to take some action to help revive Big Book-based AA in your community. You recommended visiting this website to a few friends, and they also felt the same thing in their hearts. You all got together for a small weekly gathering to open the Big Book, actually do the plan, and then share the plan. Then your community was blessed to have so many needy newcomers morphing into solid, pass-it-on steppers in such a short period of time right before your very eyes. Our Big Book of AA is truly a gutsy, proactive, high-octane book that describes an indescribably wonderful way of life. Because you took some action, many others have also tasted the miracle. God bless you for taking some action.